Welcome to Dump Truck Toolbox. I'm Alan, and today we're going to be talking about cash management. Thank you for joining me on the channel today. Always a pleasure to start a conversation with you. I'm in the middle of a series of videos on cash flow. The reason I think that's so important is a lot of small businesses fail, and of those that fail, 82% fail because of cash flow. Time to pay the bills, there's not enough money to pay them. Today we're going to be talking about cash management. A couple times in my career, I've been a professor of management. And so, especially in intro to management, I would often cover the 4 functions of managers. And we're going to talk about 3 of them. So we're going to talk about planning, organizing, we're going to skip directing, so that doesn't really count, and controlling. Number 1, planning. When it comes to cash management, planning is tied up in your budget. Before you ever start a hauling business, you need to create a budget. If you're currently running a hauling business, you need to revisit your budget at least once a year and quite possibly more often. Let's start with the person who's considering getting into the dump truck business for the first time. You need to create what's called a pro forma budget. That is a budget that's a look into the future. To do that, you're going to need to collect lots of different information. And I'm going to share some information with you, but once again, you're going to have to collect it for yourself. The data I have collected has been for my region and someone in my situation. If I were to start a hauling business, these are the numbers I would start with. Your numbers will be different. Some will be better, some will be worse. But planning, you're going to gather all this information and you're going to start making some decisions. And the most important decision, if you're starting up a hauling business, is, can I really make a go of this or not? Is the money going to be right? So the second function of management is organizing. To make it easier for you to make decisions using your budget, I'm going to suggest organizing it in 3 big categories. The first category is fixed costs. And so you need a truck. Not much of a hauling business without a dump truck. Here's what I would buy. You'd buy something else, I bet, but I would buy a 2024 Mack Quint. Monthly payment would be $4,562, and that works out to $54,746 a year in truck payments. Yearly fixed expenses. This is a partial list. You'll come up with many more, I'm sure. Insurance, I put in $5,200 a year. I had feedback from one of my viewers saying, that's a gross underestimate. And it may be. Call your insurance agent and find out what it would be. With the truck you're getting, your driving record, your credit score, whatever else they look at, you need to get a specific number. Drug testing, you really need to do something. You can do it yourself. I was a safety manager at one time. I did drug testing for 100 and something drivers. If I could pay someone to do it, I would have. So this is an estimate based on a service I found. Administration, once again, probably a gross underestimate, but you know, I put in $1,200 for that. Parking, if you have a place to park your truck, great. Otherwise, you got to pay someone. Put all that together. Truck payment, the other expenses. My number would be $61,426. A useful way to think about your fixed expenses is on a per day basis, and so you would have to pay $307 a day, assuming you're going to work about 200 days a year. You're going to be driving your truck about 200 days a year. The second big category is variable costs. And so maintenance and repair. You don't know what it's going to be, but based on the data I've gathered, at least for the first 5 years of a new truck's life, the best estimate I've found is you'd be paying about 45 cents a mile maintenance and repair cost. If you choose to buy a cheaper truck, which means an older truck, your truck payment may be less, but your maintenance and repair costs are going to go up. And eventually by year 13, they might hit $2.50 a mile. Fuel cost, also per mile. Once again, these are just numbers that were true the day I collected them, but a fuel is $3.80 a gallon. If you're buying a newer truck, if DEF is about $4.20 a gallon, then your fuel cost per mile will be about 60 cents per mile. And so you add those together, and that's $1.05 per mile. Every mile you move the truck down the road, you're going to be spending about $1.05. Labor. And you may say, oh, I'm going to drive my own truck. Great. How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to pay your rent, your house mortgage, whatever? Okay. Whether you hire someone to drive your truck for you or you're driving your own truck, that person has to make a living. And so around here, $22.50 an hour is probably a reasonable wage. You got to pay workers' comp, all sorts of reasons for that. And you got to pay the employer side of payroll tax, the Social Security tax. And so that works out to $26.81 per hour for labor. Okay, the other big variable cost is taxes, corporate income tax, there's property tax, there's some other stuff. This is not an accounting video. And if it were, I would be grossly underqualified to tell you how much you're going to pay in taxes. You need to get someone to help you figure out your taxes. I want to underline, though, that a number of entrepreneurs go out of business right around April 15th because they have not been paying their taxes. The worst case scenario is you don't even think about it, and then it's like, oh, I got to fill out some tax forms, and boom, there's a big number. That's the worst case, because even if you come up with that money, you're going to owe penalties. You're supposed to be paying at least your federal company income taxes on a quarterly basis. Once again, get some financial advice on this. Fixed costs and variable costs. No one goes into the hauling business because they love to pay cost. You go into the hauling business to make money. So let's talk about where that money might come from. The work, at least in our region, you might get paid $100 an hour for when you're on the clock with one of your hauling clients. It might be a little more, especially with a Quint. In your region, it may be totally different. So you gotta get a number that's right for you and your region. The number of days worked varies according to the weather. In our region, you can see, that the dark months of winter are a little worse, especially February and December. Hours worked per day is also worse in the winter months. You put all that together, and I estimate in my region that work would be about 1,656 hours per year. That leads to gross revenue of $165,650 a year. That sounds pretty good. But remember, you've got these expenses to back out of that. So that's organizing your budget. The third function is controlling your cash flow. You've created this budget, Hopefully it makes sense. But as you move ahead, you may discover unexpected things, often of a bad news type. So you may have estimated you're going to pay 45 cents a mile for maintenance and repair. You run over something in the road and you blow out a whole bunch of tires all at once. Okay, your maintenance budget, your repair budget is all of a sudden, boom, you've spent much more than you expected to. Your revenue, you may have overestimated how many hours you're going to be able to bill in a given month. And so as you move ahead, you've got to be comparing your actual results, what you spend and what you earn, against your budget. And if things are pretty close, then you're good, keep going. If things are more bad news than you expected, you're going to have to figure a way to come up with the extra cash. I have a video on cash crisis to give you some ideas on how to do that. If the news is good, take that money, put it aside. You're going to get bad news at some point, who knows when. So ideas on cash management, plan, organize, control, and you have a much better shot of managing your cash and staying in business. So thank you for joining me on the channel today. Hit the like button if you found today's video useful or interesting. Click on notifications so you see new videos when they come out. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And as always, I love to get comments. So this is Alan. I hope to see you again soon on the Dump Truck Toolbox.